Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters Encounters video. Well, I wanted to share this one here for several reasons. For one, it's linked to one of my favorite cryptids of all time. At least I think it's linked to it, and I'll give more reasons on it here in just a moment. Number two, also, it's a pretty scary experience. This is something that apparently is a cryptid run amok, something that has been almost released and is terrorizing this poor user afterward. And number three, mainly because it's a good read. It's definitely one of the richer stories that I have seen here. As always, these are just maybe with a little grain of salt. We don't know 100% how true or untrue these particular encounters are. I still err on the side that people are just presenting it as facts, but that's always, it's up to you to decide. But it comes from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit called Paranormal, although again, the reason why I listed it here on the Cryptids and Monsters side is because I think it's linked more to the Tulpa. The user has actually been redacted. It's anonymous, so I don't know who to give credit to, but they titled it as Muppet Clown Entity Bullied Me as a Child. Interesting title, no? So let's go ahead and let's shed this particular encounter, and then I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it afterward. So here's what they say. I've had a plethora of strange experiences in my life. In this instance, I will start with the earliest one that I can remember. I had an active imagination as a kid. I had imaginary friends that I would talk to even when I was around actual people. I can account for all of these imaginary friends as normal. I mean, they were either characters from TV shows or cartoons that I would watch, so I consider them normal, all except one. This is what I remember. I was very young and had been sick with a fever and cold. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was young enough that I was wearing a pajamas, and it was with built-in socks at the feet. And so I was being carried upstairs by my aunt and was telling her to hurry up or the Cookie Monster thing will get us. This Cookie Monster is a real character from a kids show, but it was not the real Cookie Monster that I was afraid of. I called it a Cookie Monster because this thing I would see had very similar eyes to the actual Cookie Monster. It was the only way I could describe it with my limited vocabulary at the time. And so it looked like a long hand puppet with white shirt that would billow and ripple because it had no torso. It could stretch and grow to different lengths. Its arms were like metal rods that could extend out quickly and strike me in a way similar to a snake bite. And it would always slap me open palmed or with two fingers, an index and a pointer. The hands had on white gloves just like Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse, and the head was perfectly rounded, just like a beach ball. It had curly hair that would change color from orange to blue. Its face was painted white, and it had a mouth which would twist and contort in very terrifying ways as it would hit me. The eyes bulged out of the head and moved on their own, just like the googly eyes on kids' toys or puppets. I will try to include a photo of the actual Cookie Monster from TV, and I will also attempt to draw a sketch of how I remember this creature looking. And so I remember my aunt giggled because she thought I was being cute, but this thing was actually very terrifying to me. And then it struck. It would always pop out of the walls from the cracks of the trim or the drywall, and it would always poke me very, very hard. So hard that it would cause a massive and sudden twitch or spasm from me that would make my whole body jerk suddenly. And it would always leave me sore where it hit me, and often with cramped muscles. I would cry and complain about this thing hitting me, but as you would guess, this would only get me scolded for making up fibs, and so I stopped talking about it altogether. I do have one very distinct memory of lying on my bed and then having this thing pop up from in between the bed and the wall. It would kind of slither upwards. It cocked back and then it swung at me, not with a closed fist, but with those two fingers, and then it struck me harder than ever before, right in the armpit. My aunt happened to be about 20 feet away at the time. She was blow drying her hair before school. She screamed in horror and ran out of the room. I remember her telling my grandparents and my mom that I should be seen by a doctor because, and I quote, He literally flew out of that bed like something pushed him. I remember her words exactly. I was never taken to a doctor, and the incident was never discussed again. And so I got a bit older, and eventually the things stopped popping out of the walls and hitting me. But I did have a recurring dream for many years in which I would try to escape from this creature. It would always take place in the same second-story building, and it would always end the same way. I would figure a way out of the room window and end up on the lawn below. And when I would stare up at the window, this creature would stare back down in a calm, confident manner. Not angry that I had escaped, but confident that this chase would happen again, and it would definitely get me next time. After about the first year of high school, the dream stopped. I have not seen this Muppet Clown since, nor do I care to. I realized this Muppet Clown was probably just a manifestation of some fear or trauma that I had experienced but could not process as a child. But I have to wonder, what if this is something more sinister? I'm a terrible artist and hadn't done a full sketch, but this does the face some justice, although not exact. And then that's it. That's everything that this user mentioned in their very terrifying story. In fact, you're looking right now at the exact picture that this person is referring to. It's not a picture like they took of this quote-unquote Muppet Clown, but instead it's the closest representation of it. Scary stuff, right? Those of you that are afraid of clowns already, I forget what the term is for it, but imagine seeing this on a nightly basis and it's causing you this much havoc. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all those experiences, in fact, and again, link it to one of my favorite cryptids, the Tulpa. If you haven't seen my video on it, I'll include the link for it below. I'll also include the link for that news article that I did as a follow-up of sorts. The Tulpa is one of my favorites because it's a manifestation that comes to life based on imagination. Like, people almost will it into existence. There's apparently guidelines that are out there to this day on how to create your own Tulpa. It's the idea that you too could have your very own real imaginary friends. In other words, they're imaginary. They don't exist anywhere else, but you see them and they see you and they talk with you and they're actually real. They're really, really real. You're talking to them and encountering them just as if you would if a real person were there, but again, nobody else around you can see this particular being. The problem, though, is this. These imaginary friends, these tulpas, live their own life. They don't follow any guideline. They don't follow, like, let's say, rules or commands. Once you will them into existence, they're their own specific being. And in most cases, they're okay. They're good. People enjoy having them around. They become best friends with the users. But in other cases, rarer ones, those that take a more sinister side, their particular traits become almost uncontrollable, and in some cases almost downright evil, the sense that they can harm the user as well. That becomes a possibility too. That's what I think happened in this case. The clues are at the very beginning with this user stating that I had an active imagination as a kid and I had imaginary friends that I would talk to. What is that? That's a tulpa right there. I think that this person, especially when they stated that they could account for all of these imaginary friends as being normal, they were creating these tulpas for so long, even inadvertently as a kid, and not realizing it. That's what I think happened here. They created by accident this tulpa. It became real. Maybe it was friendly at first, but maybe it took on another form, or maybe it was outright evil all from the beginning, but then it started terrorizing this poor user. I can't recall, though. Someone might have to let me know if tulpas can cause real physical harm, like, in other words, pick up something and throw it at you type stuff, or again, if it's just more as it entails here with this story of a user kind of creating it themselves, like if a tulpa strikes, as this user stated, where they in turn act as if they were hit. Obviously, it feels very real to them, but I'm wondering like what the physical effects are to it. Definitely seems real enough, at least for somebody, as the grandma stated, or the aunt, I'm sorry, to be pushed backwards, to have seen this user pushed backwards immediately. Definitely seems real enough on that end, no. But again, I think that's what this is. This is a tulpa that this user accidentally created, and then it started just staying on its own, and then it was almost there afterward and then disappearing as an afterthought, because apparently that's what happens to tulpas. If you don't pay attention to them too much, they start just moving out, moving elsewhere, and who knows what happened to them afterwards. It's like what happens to a dream, right? It seems very real whenever you're experiencing it, but afterward, what happens to that dream? So in other words, that's at least everything that I wanted to present here. And again, why I definitely wanted to share this particular encounter here. Definitely a throwback to one of my favorite cryptids. But let me know, am I correct on this? Can y'all think of anything else? Anything else that stands out as another cryptid that is linked to this? Love to hear what your comments are. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.